worked out really well.
Was that the actual end of the song?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Well,
Welcome to Skylight Huddle,
there you
everyone. Here we are, another fine Tuesday.
Man, so wow, these might sound good.
Yeah, right?
So while you're watching the stream, you're going to notice there's some audio. Some of the audio isn't matching up with the video, and I didn't have time to sync it. And it's actually been a reoccurring problem because of the way I'm running cameras here with the NDI.
Yeah,
And
they're different devices.
yeah.
They all have different amounts of lag. It's really difficult to deal with. I've had my own problems dealing with it before too. So I feel like it's one of those you just deal with it until the need really arises and you get
Right.
solid cameras. So
I haven't had anyone say anything about it yet, but I could see in the future maybe someone noticing it and saying something when we start getting more attention to this.
well,
But
given what the subject matter is, I feel like if the audio is pristine, then we've mostly done the right thing.
right, and I was telling this to my friend who does film yesterday. I was like, man, I got all the audio stuff down, but kind of don't have the camera stuff down. It's like a whole other world.
In fairness, it's a lot. It's like, okay, here's an example. You could get into playing drums if you were a kid, right? For not much money. I mean, you could pick up honestly a drum kit probably on like Facebook
Yeah.
or something for like a couple $100.
Yeah,
And to be honest, if you know what you're doing, you could even probably make that $200 kit sound like a $800 kit or a $1,000 kit, But now
Yeah.
you've invested $200 worth of heads into it,
right,
and
right.
hours and hours of your time. So,
Right.
and then you start to realize, well, like, what does it cost to get something that like doesn't have any of these inconsistencies or problems? It's like, oh, like I have to jump up a good bit,
For sure.
and what I've already put into this inexpensive setup doesn't really translate. So,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's a tough thing to figure out how to navigate, really.
There's limited money, limited time, and it's so vast. And I'm referring to videos.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Well, what I'm getting at is the equipment's more expensive.
sure.
So, like, the jump between, like, some BS that you got sitting around that you can get to work
Mm-hmm.
versus, like, what someone who would use if it was their job to produce whatever content
Right.
is a whole nother ball game.
Absolutely.
Like, orders of magnitude.
Yeah.
And it kind of sucks. But I feel like also that landscape is getting better. Like, I've seen a lot of cool stuff that, like, for example, some of the video that was shot on Sunday,
Yeah.
like, looks crazy good. And
Yeah,
like,
it does.
I literally had to ask, like, what was it? Like, I wasn't paying attention at the time. So it's like, what camera was this? And it's like, this is, whatever iPhone, whatever version it was. It's like,
Right.
I think it was whichever one they went to, like, the multiple camera setup. But the point is, the video looked really good.
Yeah.
And that's something a lot of people just have in their pocket.
Yeah.
You know
exactly.
what I mean? So you can do a lot with a little, but boy, making that jump is hard.
It is.
I mean, it's been the same thing with Vibe Unit. Like,
Yeah.
figuring out what we can do with limited budget and
Yeah.
resources. Like, you try to make it work. I did enjoy Sunday, though, watching the stream that things were in sync.
That's cool. That's really cool.
So I guess we're lucky on that. But
Yeah, it's a matter of time, obviously. It's just, it took me a long time to get to the point I am now on the audio side of things, and it's a matter of how much energy is it going to take for me to understand all this stuff when I could find somebody else who's already interested in it, who could just kind of lead me in the right direction on it, So I was just talking to my friend yesterday about it. In fact, he might be on an episode of this talking about that kind of stuff.
that'd be awesome.
So just kind of giving an idea of some of the things. He actually mentioned, and we're referring to Jordan here. You may figure that, but the people at home might not. He mentioned that one of the things he's interested in doing, because he knows what we're up to with Vibe Unit, and he's actually come by that one time he filmed for us a little bit.
Yeah, in fact,
Stinger.
we show his bumper.
That's right.
Bumper that I cut.
Yeah.
Shout out to Jordan, because that's a fixture. I mean, we show that at the front end of every single week.
Yeah.
I mean, so yeah, huge shout out. That it's incredibly good looking stuff.
Yeah, so he hit the bumper on, so it's the bumper for Vibe Unit every Sunday before the stream starts. He filmed that, and it looks amazing.
Yeah, it looks crazy good.
And he'll be on here maybe I don't know whenever he can. It might even be a Monday, because Mondays are a little better for him. We're both off from our other jobs there.
Well, if you needed to, you could also do like you could time shift this. I mean, based on the setup you're using, you could just record it and then just upload it on Tuesday, or
That's not a
upload
bad
it when
idea.
you're done, and then just set it to private or set it to come out at a certain time.
That's a really good idea.
So you make it so the video is listed, and you could even promote it around, but the video like goes live at the time.
Hadn't considered that. That's good.
That's another way to do it.
So
anyway,
I was talking to him yesterday a little bit about it, and he mentioned that he's excited about what we're doing at Vibe Unit still because he wants to come through and do do more video for us. And he made it sound like he's just kind of interested in doing it, which is really cool. I mean, it's going to give him experience doing more of that stuff. He's already very talented. And it's not like he's training, but it always doesn't hurt to practice. So
I mean, to be honest, that's cool because I think that, I mean, I would say he's absolutely a professional, in his craft.
Definitely.
And something that's been true of generally speaking, anybody who does like photo or video stuff in general, the difference between, I guess, what you'd call an amateur, and I'm not saying an amateur can't get great results. I'm not at all downplaying that. I'm just saying the level between that and a pro has less to do with what kind of camera are they using or which software do they edit with or anything like that. It's more about, where did they choose to shoot from? What was in the shot? What was the light at the time?
Right.
Things like this that like probably the average person, maybe they see something they like and they take advantage of it. But these sort of people, like my buddy Dave, is like this, where it's like you could be in any place and he could tell you exactly what and how much kind of light of any kind to get that shot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And because he can like see the space in such a way that it's like, oh yeah, if you just do this, and this,
It's become
like that,
intuitive to him.
And that's a special skill that I don't possess.
Which is,
and given that we're very close, like I would say on the cusp, probably we'll see if we have them by next week, but probably the week after that, I have new lighting that's coming along for over there.
We do.
So yeah, that's going to be, I think, a really cool thing. And one of the things we want to have sensibilities about is how does it look on camera?
Right.
So like figuring out where to put it and where things will look good for that kind of purpose is going to be key, I think. So it's cool to hear. I'm glad he's into that.
Yeah, totally is into it. And look, whenever he gets stoked about something or brings something up like that, it's usually a certain thing. Like, he doesn't commit to things he's not certain about. He's that kind of guy.
Right.
So it kind of fired me up when he mentioned, he's like, this would work really well for you guys. Like, it'd be cool to do some shots like that, so.
And the thing is, too, I'm down to experiment. Like, this whole thing is, I guess, like in the video game genre, they'd call something like a sandbox or like a, just like a free roam kind of thing. It's almost that. Like, there's just enough structure to define, like, this is where it is, and these are the things we have to use.
Yeah.
Like, these are the tools you get.
Yeah.
But like, there's
like
not like a rule about like, well, you have to draw this picture with them.
We have kind of fallen into a routine there, but that element is definitely a part of it, right? Like when we stepped into doing Vibe Unit, it was like that was really the intent. I think things have kind of settled to a spot where we're kind of like routine oriented. So like it seems, I guess from my perspective, like we've kind of ended up in this like. Some people could maybe perceive that we're starting to dial in like a formula, but I don't think we really have yet. I think, like you were saying, it's more sandbox, where like there are certain things involved that we kind of do, like we do a stinger at the beginning, like, or a bumper at the beginning, right?
I think most of our structure is like child of necessity type structure, where it's
right.
Like the structure's there just so it isn't a huge pain in the ass for everyone involved. Not because it's like some high like hoity-toity like production value, like, oh, if this doesn't launch at 0 seconds at 2:30, like you're fired or some shit. Like, no one cares. Like, we're just here to have a good time,
right? And
hopefully everything works and everybody's stuff is perfect and we just have a great time. Like, that's the whole point of it.
We have enough structure in place to facilitate that sandbox.
That's it.
Yeah.
I hope it never becomes too much of, you know what I mean?
That's what I mean. Like, I don't think it not with our intent. Like, that's not our intent. So I don't think it's going to become that bad. But I do think that some of that is necessary, along with the whole sandbox thing. Like, you need to have that structure in place, because if it's all sand, it crumbles. You need a little, like, you need a box, right, to play with your sand. You can't just put it in the yard and
Right.
not expect it to spread everywhere.
Sure.
I guess. So, with that being said, you know, that we're still in the process. Like, you know, every week it seems like we're, you know, experimenting with new lighting. Yeah, you know, we've come some clever. You have come up with some clever techniques for some lighting, like with those bags. You know, like nobody would ever know, but.
But even things like that, it's like that's a terrible way to do it compared to anything that resembles the right way, right?
Sure, but it's like the essence of creativity to get to something that we're trying to achieve with the limited resources. I find it fascinating personally.
I think for me, it just comes from some sort of weird ethos I've always had of like, it'd be better to try it, like try something with what you have,
Yeah,
than just be like,
oh,
like maybe I'll do that when I get whatever. Because
yeah,
I fall into that easy enough on everything else,
right?
You know, like
right.
I'll get to that when I get that gear, when I whatever.
And then
like,
it
you
never
could just be doing the thing though, like it's not like you're really.
I think it's
prevented.
resourceful, and I actually find it admirable. You know.
There's a place I did a project at even this last week where, you know, normally you'd probably use like a certain type of light fixture for like just front white light, you know, just even temperature white, you know, wash just across like a stage.
Yeah.
And they didn't have, I don't know the specifics, but I don't know if they just didn't have the budget for it or what, but the front light they had installed was dimmer packs with a bunch of effectively fixtures from like a Home Depot or whatever, you know, like clamp fixtures.
Yeah.
With the brightest, like, you know, what are they, 150 watt or whatever, like LED, you know, spotlight bulbs. It's like, you'd be surprised what you can get away with, man. Like 6 of those across the front of a stage is a lot more light than you'd think it is.
Yeah.
So again, like, why not try it? Like, you could spend thousands on lights, or you could buy, you know, $6 fixtures for $40.
Right.
And, you know, bulbs for another $50. You just spent a total of $100, and it's like, it's passable. Is it the best thing you've ever seen? No, but like, it's better than not trying anything at all, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, well, I have $100 right now. I probably will have $1,000 in the future, but not right now. And I'd rather not wait till then to decide this is worth putting any effort into, I guess. And that's the creative thing you're talking about.
Right. And it lends itself to resourcefulness and all that. But I think with all this experience that we've had, I mean, we're about 3/4 through the year almost. Well, we are.
What was it? 38, I want to say it was last Sunday.
Yeah. Yeah. 38 sessions, and there'd be 51 by the end of the year because of the one we missed.
Yep.
If we maintain it every week from here on out. So,
which, not to say like that wouldn't happen again. Like, I don't even, you know, there may be a reason we have to take a week off.
Oh, sure.
For whatever reason,
but yeah, I think after this amount of sessions that we've done, I've kind of, man, I can say I've learned a lot. Like, I've learned, you know, I hadn't really messed with much analog gear before this. We're doing a lot of it with analog. I mean, we've definitely, over the time of doing it, we started out with the intent of wanting analog to be the predominant feature.
I would argue it still is.
And it is.
The only part of it that isn't really is the recording method we're using and the very end of the broadcast chain where we convert back to digital and then stream it out, right? But like, we're not doing any processing there or anything.
Right.
That's actually a lie. There is a processor that the analog from the board, the master bus comes out and hits. And then that has a limiter, like a hard brick limiter at, I think, like -1, but -1 from like a digital reference.
Yeah.
And that's just to make sure that the preamp at the level it's set to, we won't redline it, you know.
Right.
So that was the purpose of that, and it works for that. It's, you know, let's just put it this way: in an ideal scenario, hopefully, that thing never gets hit at all. Like, if we're not dumb with the way we set our levels, like, it should never have to limit anything.
Right.
But it's just there as a fail-safe.
It's a fail-safe. Yeah, exactly.
So it's yeah,
Well,
I'm not mad about it.
The reason I bring that up is it's just like learning about the analog gear and learning about all that stuff. Honestly, I've never done that before, and I really enjoy that entire process of just like figuring it out and trying to like decide what am I like what does gain staging look like in this context, because it's different with that than digital. It's just I've learned stuff through it. And also the other feature of Vibe Unit that I really appreciate is it brings people together to do it might be illusionary to some extent, but it feels like you're doing something. Like it's almost like, but it is not an illusion. And I mean,
look, let's
it's an excuse to get together, and like it feels like something's happening.
That's true, but at the same time, understand that I have this opinion as well that like, and it's been true for me in my life, like skill that I've ever developed, if it goes unused completely, oh my, do you start forgetting pieces of it quickly?
Yeah.
Like I did this light project I was talking about this last week, and it's funny because like the first day, like that first afternoon I spent on the project, I'm just staring at some of this stuff going like, this is different than what I've done before. Like I'm sure I can figure it out, but I'm going to have to learn something here.
Yeah. It's just
so my point is it was stuff I've done before, you know, that sorry, I should have completed that thought, but yeah, it's stuff I've done before. And so it's frustrating because it's like there was a time when I probably would have been able to just fly through this.
Yeah.
And granted, after having just done it now, if you asked me right now to like replicate that, I could do it now, and I could probably do the whole thing in like a couple of afternoons, right? But that's what happens when you just don't do anything or touch the equipment or think with the kind of thought patterns that you develop and require in order to do a certain task. Like you have to learn how to think. Like when you learn to mix or when you learn to record, like you have to think a certain way about how you do it for the best results.
It's like flexing or stretching your knowledge.
Kinda,
like,
yeah.
And if you stop stretching, you lose some of your dexterity.
You forget like what works and why, and you know, even if you remember how to do some of the steps. And I feel like for us, we get that constant reminder with the whole analog thing. Like, nope, if you screw it up, like you're gonna have to fix it because there's no saving it.
A feature I also like about Vibe Unit is, you know, brings people together. It's something we can work on our skills and have like you were saying, like that constantly, you know, trying to remind ourselves, like, what do we do to set this up? And when it's analog, you can't save settings, so you have to kind of tweak with things. I think that's cool because you're constantly flexing, you're constantly stretching your muscles and making sure you're still flexible on stuff. But
you're forced to just go back to the whole like, well, does that sound good to you?
So
like, no, I don't like that. It's like, all right, what do we need to change? You know, you're just trying to get rid of what you don't like, and you do that way more often than you probably would think. You know?
Yeah. That's kind of part, and this is kind of off topic to that, but a little on topic. But that's kind of why sometimes I don't save settings in Logic, just because I want to rebuild that same thing over and over. Like, I realized somewhere along the line that when I save a setting, I leave it and I always use it, it could disappear. Something could go wrong. And I'm like, well, this isn't working. And since I haven't checked that thing that I only set once, because I got out of the practice of checking it, like it could be anything. It could be a compressor. It could be whatever. Something messed up in the chain, and because I'm not in the routine of going back and checking things, I lose it. And now I'm like, I can't figure out what I did then. So it's kind of like sometimes it's a give and take. Like it's good to save settings, but at the same time too, it's good to practice rebuilding those settings. I need a hybrid way of doing it where I save the setting and then go back and repeat it. And if I forget, I can go back and check it. But, you know, that's...
Part of me, what I've been doing lately, especially this just happened recently, I think I showed this to you, but I found a way to just get the thickest kind of guitars, man, and using just stock Logic stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Which I thought was impossible before very recently. And I was super stoked about it. And I've been writing a lot and doing like making patterns and doing a lot of drum programming and like trying to figure out how I want the structures of some of these songs to be. And it's been nice because every time I go to do that, I've been just building the guitar thing again. Just like you're talking about, just for the excuse of like, no, you know, you dumbass, like you're going to forget it if you don't do it. Like go build it again.
Practicing.
Yeah. So I just forced myself to go back and like, no, like just build up the chain again. And the thing is, it also forces you to think of better and more efficient ways to do it. Because if you have to build it every time, you're not trying to make it super complex. If you find like a simpler way to accomplish the same thing, like my secret weapon for a while now on drum bus has been the Sheps Omni channel.
Yeah.
Because that plugin has a little bit of everything in it. Like what I mean, it's enough for me. I'd rather know that, hey, if I drop this one plugin in there, I can get what I need out of it. Because now in order to build that sound, I don't have to be like, all right, now what order did I put all that in again? Well, what was the settings in all 6 of these different windows? Like, you know. So it's been a good practice. Because I've been pleased that like more or less the result I get every time is pretty similar. Yeah. I guess. And when it isn't, sometimes I like it that it's different and what's different about it. Sometimes I don't. But that's kind of cool too, because then you find new things that you didn't even know like that you like or you knew how to build or whatever, just by maybe making a little mistake when you built it or you put the thing in the wrong order or whatever. So it's interesting.
And I've been trying to get through all these ideas I have with like the things I appreciate about Vibe Unit. I'm just really pushing hard on like repping it today because I just was, after last Sunday's stream, I've just felt really thankful, I guess, because I've never been involved in a group of musicians consistently, except for like outside of, you know, when we did church stuff.
Yeah.
And that sense of community where it could be just you and me, which is totally fine. We can definitely both probably agree that there's a different energy when you have more people there.
For sure.
It gets to a point where like that kind of, and I know it most of the time it's just you and me, and I'm totally grateful for that. Like I'm extremely thankful that we can get together and at least we have each other to work on music and keep each other moving and perpetually pursuing something, which is awesome. Nick and Wes can't show up as often, which is totally fine and understandable. The thing that I love about when they do show up, though, is it reminds me that they're consistently a part of it too, whether they can be there or not.
Oh, sure.
Like it's this thing where there's a gravity to Vibe Unit where even if those guys aren't there, you know, I know Nick for sure checks up on the stream and makes sure that everything is like we're still doing it right. And I think for a lot of people, that consistency, we talked about this early on. We said that we might not get a lot of attention right away on this whole thing, but we want to keep doing it so people can rely on it happening. There's a comfort, whether or not people are participating or actively engaging with what we're doing or not. People they know what we're up to. Like you hear about it from people. Like I hear about it from Jim. You know, he's like, "Hey, you guys still doing that Vibe Unit thing?" Or I'll hear about it from some random person. Like, "Hey, I heard you and John are doing this like internet thing," and it's like, so it's interesting because when we look at the statistics, I mean, you see, we're getting like followers here and there, right? Things are kind of shaking. We haven't like exploded into the scene at any level, which I don't think we ever thought we would. I mean, it's not like that was the goal. A goal is at its heart to just keep working on music and having like documentation of it and all that. But we intuitively understood this, and we discussed it, was regardless of who catches on to this, we know that in order for people to believe in it, it's got to be something with a backlog. It's got to be consistent. Whether we're doing something or not, like whether we have a big group of people or if it's just you and me, like as long as we put something out on Sunday, like a stream of some kind, we realize that one of these days someone might see it and be like, wow, you guys are like 38 sessions in. Like you guys are really, I guess, committed would be the word, right? You're reliably doing this.
Well, when you mentioned the whole documenting aspect, it's funny too, because it's like anybody who comes in at this point, say they just heard about Vibe Unit today. okay, and they go say to the YouTube channel
Uh-huh.
to check it out, and they see that there's 38, 39, whatever videos up there, and like anybody, like my general thing is like if I find a new channel or something, it's like I'll watch like some of the more current stuff because I'm trying to see like what are they making right now,
Right?
Like what is this thing, like if they're active currently, like what are they making,
Right.
But then there's a part of me that always gets curious, and I go, how long have they been doing this? And that's kind of what you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
And then you go back and you look at the back catalog and you're like, wow, like they have a lot of videos. And then you start looking, at least I do, I start looking at like the dates. And I'll be like 2 years ago, like 5 years ago.
Oh, wow.
8 years
They've
ago.
been at it.
Like, like, wait, were they still making? And then you see, like, for example, if it was like someone doing games, maybe they play, Diablo now. And maybe then they played,
Whatever. Yeah.
was it Hello Kitty's Island Adventure? That's what they say in
Wow, that's a
South Park.
shift.
You know what I mean? But it just that kind of thing where it's like
Right.
you wouldn't know that unless you cared and like checked it out. But it'd be funny for you to be like, wow, like, yeah, like a lot of change. Like you said, like they stayed at it and a bunch of stuff changed. And it's like if you wanted to like watch the journey happen, if you started watching it back then, you'd probably get to see it.
Right.
And the same's true for Vibe Unit, and that's been cool. Where it's like, if you came in right now to see 38, like, yeah, it's pretty good, honestly.
Yeah.
But if you dip back into like February,
When we were still trying
or
to walk,
January,
basically.
yeah,
Yeah,
like
we were
just
still
learning
figuring
to
it out.
stand up,
Yeah.
and I'm just gonna be honest, it's terrible.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Like
Which- but
the
it's-
first couple are just hot garbage.
And it's there.
But I'm glad that they're still there.
Yes, because
and
they're there
they'll
to
stay.
show growth, and I think along with that, it's so someone who like like Nick or Wes who can't be there every week. That having it being consistent, them knowing it's going on with or without them, but they're allowed to be there. They're invited. They're always invited. There's a certain reliability there where they can feel like they're included, and they don't have to ask, hey, are you guys still doing that thing? They know what we're doing. And then it leaves it completely up to them without miscommunication to decide, hey, I'm coming through. Like, it's just a beautiful thing. The more consistent we can be, the more successful we're going to be in this, in terms of, like, getting people involved. And
You're right. It's funny you say that because while you were speaking previously, I was thinking of something along those lines. Like, it's like, I'm trying to think of a good way to express this. Like, if there's a thing that you're doing and you want people to be involved in it, when it's very early and it's just like your idea, it's harder because people, I think, and this isn't like a slight to them. Like, this is smart. If you're smart, you'd think this way. But like, if you're smart, you'd look at it and go, who else is doing this with you? And they go, well, it's just me right now. And you go, okay, so like, realistically, if I get involved in this, you're dragging me into like getting this off the ground, right? So like you're expecting a high level of commitment out of me to like make
yeah.
your dream work, right?
Yeah.
Whereas if it's something like you're saying that just it happens either way and isn't relying on you for its success, however you're invited to it,
Yes.
it's a different kind of vibe entirely because it's not like you're not scared of like doing something with it because you're like, shit, man, this is just going to turn into something where they expect something out of me.
Right.
And like, I don't have any expectations of anybody,
Exactly.
like you're crazy consistent, but like, even if you weren't there, it's like,
Yeah.
I'll still do something.
Exactly.
Like, it's
That's-
not, you know what I mean?
There was a week of this summer I couldn't be there, and actually a couple, and well, no, just one, because or maybe it was two. I don't. Regardless, I'm just saying that the consistency is important, and we figured that out, and I think that's really cool. It gives me something to look forward to. It's been good for my emotional health, and like basically, I feel like I've grown a lot in my knowledge of music just by being a part of it.
I mean, honestly, that I can say is something that you can tell also, like, I mean, granted, we've been doing this less than a year, right? Because we started on
Yeah.
the 1st of January. And seeing, like, because I'm playing more consistently with people, too.
Right.
And I think, I mean, you are, too. That's what we
Yeah.
were just talking about. And it's like, I can see improvements that I've made just from the consistency of like, oh, like, you know, at least every week or every other, every couple, like I'm playing bass or I'm playing drums or I'm playing some guitars. Like it gives me an excuse to have to bust out some of those things every now and again.
Yeah.
And that's really good.
And then the whole added aspect that we're documenting it and allowing people to come in, it feels like we're giving something to those people who come and participate too. Because for a Nick who's working out his song ideas, and that's typically what we do when he comes over, you know, it's such a valuable thing to go into a session with an idea and be able to go back and listen to you working it out with people, and then you'll catch on to things that you didn't catch the first time because you were in the moment, and now you're stepping outside of yourself and watching you interact with people. You know, I noticed just watching myself, you know, I'm trying to get mic levels right for this and trying to get our thing right here. And I realized a couple streams ago I was saying certain words a lot. You know, I was in a repetitive state of like I'm using the same words. I'm using them over and over, and it was annoying me.
Sure.
So I start to refine my ability to communicate. It's just invaluable to have these.
They're feedback loops.
They're feedback, and it's awesome. So back to Nick. He's writing these songs, and by the way, I'm extremely excited about these songs that he's got. I mean, he said he's got about 8 of them, and
I don't care if it's one big one.
it's incredible how his mind works with writing, and I don't think he realizes. He hears us say it, but I don't think it's sunk in enough where it's like, no, these are valuable to some regard, especially to me. Like I can say it for myself personally, like the style, it's just good music to me. I'm honored to be a participant in his style, but
I mean, in a sense, I would just say the same thing about a lot of other things where it's like genre or preference or anything aside, like, and I've kind of had an idea about this since I was a kid, right? Like, I don't know when the first time that this ever happened was, but there's a certain time when, like, when you go to a museum or something and you see art or some artifact or something, when you're really young, it's just like, oh, cool, bunch of old shit, sweet.
Yeah.
Right? But then you get to a certain age where you see it and you go, holy shit, like some guy that probably wasn't that different from me made that like 1,000 and some years ago.
That's so odd you're bringing that up. I was just talking to Ash about art and how I didn't appreciate it.
Or like art, or like you'll see a painting and you just be like, damn, like that makes me feel a certain kind of way. Like it's not about like who painted it or like, you know, were they a good
your maturity has hit a
not.
level where it's like, whoa, this is deep.
Like in that moment, no one cares. Was the person who painted it, well, was he a moral person? Was he a good painter? Like no one cares at that time. They're just taking in the art and making a judgment about it.
Right.
And it made them feel some type of way or they didn't feel anything at all. And what I'm saying is the reason I know Nick's stuff is good is because it's like pure art. Like when I hear it, I feel a certain way. And that's how I know it's valuable.
So with that, you know, Nick's the kind of guy that needs a space like Vibe Unit, I think, because I know he's been trying to get some of his songs worked out for a long time, but he's reliant to some degree on people participating in that process of him figuring it out. I mean, this is just kind of how he works. Like he needs that feedback. He's got a kind of I'll tell you what, he's got the idea in his head, like how he wants it. He just needs to discover it through other people doing it, right?
I even caught him saying that once on Sunday, and it was like the highest compliment I possibly could have been receiving as like someone else in the session, right?
Yeah.
When I heard him say something like we just played through the thing or something, he's like, yeah, that's exactly how I heard it.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh, really? Like, oh, we hit it? Like, that's cool.
See, someone like Nick it's just he's gonna get something out of Vibe Unit that's kind of, I don't know if this has been expressed anywhere yet. I don't even know if we told Nick this. Maybe we discussed this, but I always felt like Vibe Unit was kind of catered to Nick in some regard. Like to me, that's how it felt, because not that we only did it for him, but it was people like that, you know, who want to document and to kind of like be able to work out their songs and then have it recorded or documented in some way. I mean, all the way back when we were trying to do something like this at my parents' house, we talked about that.
Well, in a sense, okay, if you don't mind me getting nostalgic, right?
Yeah.
I think like when you and I first started doing stuff together, one of the ways you would get a lot of your ideas was with just like a 2-track recorder.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And most of the stuff you showed me that came from there, it was literally just that. Like, this is what the structure of the song is and maybe what some of the chord structures are. It wasn't intended to sound good. It was just supposed to be there so you wouldn't forget how it goes.
It was like journal.
Right. I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
Like, so my point is that whole, like, document the idea, I feel like has been pretty key to how you've gone about doing and accomplishing a lot of what you've done.
Absolutely. I mean, I write furiously in my notebook. I try to like record things that I'm thinking about and stuff, and I go back and I read them like my books. Like they're just like journals that I read to like remind myself of things. I date everything so I know when I learned it. And so having something like Vibe Unit is good for me too, because then I can go back and say, "Oh, I liked what we did there." There's a session we did with Tony. The few times he showed up, it was like.
There was an early session.
It was an
I know
early
which
session.
one you're talking about.
Yeah, and we were just coming up with some like licks, and I came with some sweet guitar thing, and I loved it, and I can go back and listen to that any time. I don't have to sit here and wonder what that was.
Right.
I can go back 6 months and be like, oh, okay, that's what we did, and then I can bring it to the present, and I can retain that, and having it out there for, and then other people like eventually I imagine if other people wanted to get involved in discussing like our ideas and stuff, like our music, I could see them throwing in some ideas, and or like let's say you have a musician friend that hasn't caught on to what you're doing yet, and you're like, hey, you want to check this out? There's a song idea I was coming up with on a stream about a few months ago that I think you and I could work on. Would you be interested? Sure. And they'll say, all right. Well, what is your idea? Well, like, we'll go here, check out this video. Well, I don't have to send you an MP3 or anything. I can just say, it's this section of the video. Check it out, and you can see what we were kind of working on. It's beautiful. Like, and to me, it's like...
I want to get better about that, too. I did something this week that was new.
Yeah.
Well, I've done it before, but not, like, on purpose, I guess. Like, not trying to make sure I did it a certain way, which is basically... And I need to go learn some things about how YouTube's like content studio thing works, because I know you can mark like sections of your video, and I see other people do it and I love it, but I want to do the same thing.
Yeah.
So like this week, since we were working on one of Nick's things, it's like there's always a time. I've noticed there's a kind of a, like you're talking, there's a formula, you kind of just, there's a gravity, you fall into whatever it is.
Right.
When Nick's over, usually the way it goes is we get together, we screw off for like the first 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Doing whatever. And then we get into like whatever it is we're really trying to work on. We at some point early on do like a first run through attempt where we try to just make it through the song.
Yeah.
That one's usually pretty rough, but sometimes those are all right. As far as just like an idea of what the whole song is supposed to be, which I think is cool for the progression of if you're watching the video, that's the thing if you want to just like not waste any time, you want to watch that first. And then there'd be other markings for things like notable things that happen throughout the session. And then usually there's like always a final playthrough where it's like the last full time we did it through. And usually
let's do it one more time just to make sure we have it. Yeah.
So I always mark that too. And so then this week there ended up being like 2, 3, maybe 4 markers where it's like, I think it was like, this is the first time we played the whole thing through. This was when we were figuring out some of the dynamic structure for different sections. Which you can hear the difference between what we were trying to do. And then a third one, which is when we really figured out what that bridge build was supposed to be like, because that was a key thing, I thought.
Oh, yeah.
And then the fourth marker being like, hey, this is like the final time through when the session was basically over, and we'd spent, by that point, over an hour on that song. So, like, it's basically as tight as it's going to get in terms of, like, people playing the same part the way they've been and that kind of thing.
Right.
Because you remember what you did 10 minutes ago, but maybe not a week ago.
Right. Yeah.
Which it's valuable for that, too. Like, to be honest with you, right now, if someone was like, play the bass lines you played yesterday for this recording, I'd be like, can I listen to them?
Yeah, you got to listen to it. That's what it all comes, like, that's the value to me. And so we were discussing, like, well, what should we do like when a group comes through or when people come through and they want to play their stuff? Well, it depends on, I guess, like what we're really trying to achieve, because if it's a group that doesn't have any content out there, in a way, we're giving them a big favor of just filming and I mean, there doesn't even have to be a discussion of monetary value at that point, because it's just like you're getting this experience where, you know, basically you can go back and watch yourself live with good audio, you know.
Yeah. Effectively, all I'm worried about in terms of legal is we need to make sure that, like, you can't sue me later because I, like, made this with your content, in
Right.
a sense, right? Because it's your song and all that, right?
Yeah. So whatever that needs
Like,
to be.
I know that Audio Tree, for example, I did some looking into this.
Oh,
the
really?
way their legal works is they split any money that is received from the value of, like, putting the session up and all that. It's a 50-50 split.
Oh.
So that lets Audio Tree retain some money for their operating expenses, but also gives the artist
And that's good.
a sizable
That's
chunk.
smart, because it feels like, honestly, we're getting equal benefit out of this. You know, it feels like, I mean, right now.
I mean, they clearly are, because they're at a point now where, like, they have a pretty high bar set for, like, this is what we expect of you if you're going to come through and play here. And that's good. I mean, they're at a point and a level that they can have that kind of bar set.
Yeah.
And that's cool. But I'm saying that as far as I'm understanding all the research I did, that's just been the structure, like 50-50.
Yeah.
So I'm saying, regardless of whether I get any hand in the pot or not, I don't care. I just want to make sure that I can't get in trouble. You know what I mean? For
Right.
having for having you perform your thing on something that
So yeah,
technically.
so whatever that needs to be, and then we get that figured out, and yeah, we can do all this. I just think it's really cool, and I think with all of the
I think the better we get with our production values too, the higher the value of what we can offer is as well.
Sure.
Like right now, I wouldn't.
no,
It's one
I
of
mean
those,
we're
like, just
still
come through and we'll do the best we can.
Well, yeah, we're
right? But
walking.
I love it to be at a point where it's like, come through, and like I said, and we have a structure for this and everything.
well, and my plan is to get there. I think we will. I mean, we have the skill set to get there. We just need to raise awareness of what we're up to and see if we can figure out a way to get some like monetization of some kind, just get some money rolling through. But other than that, like the community drive for it is sound. I think that it's very inclusive and loving to the community. It's helpful. I really enjoy this idea that we kind of got into about using it to some degree. Like another appendage of it would be like a learning opportunity for some people, like younger people. And
I mean, it's been that for me. Like,
yeah.
I saw a video. What is it, Andrew Masters or whatever on YouTube?
Oh yeah,
does
I
those,
remember
like,
you telling
he
me
does
about
like those
Andrew
studio.
Masters.
He does like those studio tours or whatever for random people he knows that have, you know, like recording spaces. And granted, some of them are like working studios that are making money and doing that, right? But occasionally you'll go see one that is like, you know, dude converts like some big garage in the back of his property to be like an actual dank recording setup, and you're like, what? Like, this one I saw the other day, the square footage on it was only like 700 or 800 square feet. It was really small in terms of
What?
actual space, but the way these guys had it set up, it was like, yeah, I could see that working. Like,
Wow.
and so when he was asking them, like, well, so how'd you guys like end up with this space? And apparently these dudes just met each other because they were working on similar music, and eventually decided like it made sense, since they kept working on the same stuff together, that they should just like start piling all their gear in one place. You know, because it's like, hey, you want to use this thing I have? I want to, you know, like I forget what he said it was. It's like one of them had like an old Wurlitzer, and someone had. She's like, we just need a place we can set these up and be able to use them. And it turned into like a venture between the two of them, where
That's
it's like,
cool.
this is where we go to work on our own stuff.
That's
and
kind
where
of
we
similar
get
to
good
where
at-
we're at.
Yeah, where we
you know?
get good at recording drums, or we get good at miking up a piano, or
Yeah.
whatever we have in here, you know, like just getting good with the tools we've got.
Wow, that's cool.
So that was kind of inspiring, because it was just like, yeah, that's kind of really, in a sense, like how things got started for us.
Yeah, it is.
Where it's just like, you know
Definitely.
what? I got some kit, you got some kit, like let's just start
Well,
kind of piling some of it in one place, enough that we could do, you know, like to jam. 'Cause it's like,
Right.
if it's sitting around doing nothing on a shelf, who cares, right? But like, why not just set it up so you can just walk up to it and play it?
Right.
You know, because that's what we talked about.
That's what we
before even
wanted, yeah.
started. And so, in reality, we haven't even taken super heavy advantage of it yet.
Mm-mm.
But the fact of the matter is, like, it's also equally there to hopefully be inspiration for me to work on my stuff and you as well.
Absolutely.
You know, like, so I'm hoping that as time goes on, the more stuff I've got that becomes ready, that I can do more of the pieces myself in my home. Like,
Right.
that's nice.
Yeah, we definitely started that up and putting our stuff together, and it's cool because we don't just do this. I mean, we have jobs and we do all that. So, but because we have similar interest in a lot of our, like, some of the things that you're interested in exploring are like the puzzle piece, the dip to my knob or whatever you call it. Like where like I can fill in a lot of the spots that you aren't interested in, and vice versa. Where and we have like two incomes, so it's like a lot of this stuff. It's really nice that I can just like loan you some stuff that you need.
Yeah,
and,
if I get
vice
new
versa.
toys, I want you to play with them too. You
Exactly.
know what I mean? Like,
it's really cool that you and I have gotten to that point where we have different interests and different, but at the same time, in this umbrella of similar things we're trying to pursue. So it's like, I think that's really neat, and yeah, it's actually been really helpful being able to like try out or like you having a certain skill set that's like, oh, like what direction should I go on this so I'm not wasting money, or like wasting time trying to figure something out that you already figured out. It's like we got to like use each other's knowledge to some extent to like take shortcuts on some things because we only have limited time on this this earth. So.
Isn't that true of everyone?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
If whatever is accomplished by us pursuing that can also be shared with others, that's like the ideal scenario,
Yeah.
Like that's like mission accomplished as far as Vibe Unit's concerned.
Absolutely. So, and then with that, it'd be nice to somewhere down the line having a more neutral location, which we talked about having eventually, and being able to have more people participate in that community of musicians that can use gear and people that.
Well, in addition to being able to like enjoy the experience of people being in a room and playing music, like we've limited ability and space to do that here locally.
Sure.
And so at some point I'd love to see it become the kind of thing that, like you said, is more of like a neutrally located thing.
Right.
That you can have people come and enjoy what is actually happening there as well, not just simply be you can watch from afar because only so many people fit in here,
Right. Yeah, it's going to be interesting seeing how this all plays out, but I'm really stoked. I'm in a good spirit today about it. I just wanted to talk about it because, I mean, every time we have people come through, I can expect it to be just you and me. It is kind of a special treat, though, when we have different people in there and, like, other stuff. I mean, you and I have been doing stuff together for so long, and we're getting... It's funny because we're still hitting like ceilings in terms of like our workflow, and we're getting even better and better all the time, which is really cool. It is very nice though to have a fresh group just to hear like something like it's like whoa, like because I'm getting to the point now, and I think you are too, where we're like so used to each other's workflow where it's like okay, and like we learn still from each other, but you know what I'm saying, like it's nice to have new people.
There is certainly like a comfort level to it where you just kind of like fall into the same stuff.
Yeah. So,
which we're about to do.
Yeah, we are actually. I mean, I'm excited to jam.
Same.
You guys can see we have, or I should say, you folks. I always say guys, and I honestly am trying to work on that, and I don't think anyone's expecting me to, but I really think it's more inclusive to say folks.
Don't sleep on the y'all either. If we're going to folks, dude, y'all is very inclusive.
So I want to highlight. I guess we got some synths on the table here. I'm running through a little pedal chain. Look, I've been wanting this for a while. Where I just took a board, just a project board. It's nothing fancy, and I just hot glued some Velcro strips to it, so I can set pedals on the table and not have them move and be in weird positions. I need them to be like static. I don't need them moving around and then like shifting in weird ways. So I finally got this board built, and it was on last week or a couple week ago stream. On the board, I have just a power supply, crappy one, to be honest. And then I have the Echoes and the Oceans 12. And so what we're going to do is I'm just going to play some synth through it.
Sure.
John has the TR-8S as that seems to be the instrument that he's been playing lately.
Trying to just cover the rhythm section over here, you know?
And the cool thing about it is there's a MIDI cable. What MIDI is, it's a language, basically, a musical language for stands for, what does it stand for? Musical Instrument Digital Interface.
Correct.
Is really what it stands for. But it can send information to my Minilogue over here, and I might be reiterating some of the stuff you already understand, but maybe some of you don't. Typically, like with old school music equipment, and it was developed kind of, I would say, like the 70s, or was it a little earlier even?
Well, very early on, the history of MIDI is actually kind of interesting because before MIDI, there's actually a ton of different people trying to accomplish the same thing, but it really only worked within like the same vendor's products.
Yeah, that wasn't. It was like if you wanted your stuff to work together, you'd have to have the proprietary cable for like Yamaha or
right, and all the things that were gonna use it, like all the consumers or distributors of whatever this, whatever sync or whatever it was providing.
Yeah,
they all had to be the same in the family, basically. And interestingly, Roland had their own too. Like I forget what it's called, but there's like a pre-MIDI standard that they had kind of come up with that had become standard on all their stuff. And over time, it became enough of a problem that, they developed like an actual standard spec. And the goal of it originally was just so that like if other people wanted to build stuff that would talk to theirs, it could.
Yeah.
But it turned into a thing where everybody was like, oh, like, well, this is pretty easy to implement and there's documentation on it. Like, why don't we just do this? So it kind of just became the de facto standard. Right. Even though at the end of the day, MIDI actually has some really severe limitations.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's funny because but it's been around so long that there's pretty much no gear that won't speak it. Even the cheapest, most knockoff thing, that if it has MIDI, it probably works. It does something. And it's funny because actually from last week, this is relevant. The lighting uses the same thing. Lighting uses a standard called DMX 512, which is really just a serial protocol like MIDI is, right? Developed long ago by some theater, like some theatrical lighting like group or company, I don't remember which. Mm-hmm. But the point is they developed this very early on for just like control of dimming and stuff. And now it's been exploited to a point where you control every aspect of any light fixture using this protocol, and you only get 512 like channels, if you will, per what they call universe. So you figure that's not that many if one light, say, takes 20 channels. Yeah. It's like you can burn through 512 really quick.
Yeah.
So there's crazy limitations. When you see a tour with a bunch of lights, like the things they've had to overcome with technology to like either get around that or split it up or do weird things just so that you can still use this 40-year-old protocol or whatever. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
But the stuff's still in use.
Yeah.
And MIDI's the same way.
So this MIDI cable here, it's sending musical information, a language, to my device. So when he hits play over there, it actually starts mine as well. And that can be really useful if you're trying to synchronize things. Some people... And there's videos around YouTube. I encourage you guys to look into this if this is all new to you. But there's videos out there of people who have ridiculously large setups where everything's connected with MIDI cables, and they hit one play button, and 20 synthesizers are playing at once. And that can be ridiculous. It's fun to watch. It's definitely interesting. Like you can learn a lot just from having people talk about their routing and all this stuff. We keep it pretty simple here. I mean, we have two instruments.
So I guess worthwhile to note.
Yeah.
In summary, MIDI's just a way for us to exchange some information about what's going on musically, which could be a lot of things. Typically, MIDI is like a note, a musical note, among other things. They would call those parameters, but usually it's a note. And then another key thing we're using here, really maybe the only thing, you have to correct me if I'm wrong, but MIDI also can send like a clock signal, like a pulse that happens every so often, and that the distance between those pulses basically says how fast the music is going.
Right.
So whatever I set over here, typically that's in beats per minute. Whatever I set here, it'll send the appropriate pulse every so often to Mike's synth, and it will know that whatever triggering it's doing, it should snap
Exactly.
its actions to when the pulse comes. So it keeps everything sounding together.
Yeah, and that can be extremely useful when you're trying to do what we're doing here, which is...
Can you imagine having 20 synths without any MIDI sync?
You'd have to hit play on everything at the same time. Like
at just the right time.
And no one has 20 fingers. They have 20, like if you count toes, maybe, but you can't stretch that far. This is just arbitrary. This whole conversation is ridiculous. I mean, I just think it's cool. Like, and a few weeks ago, I actually designed, because I was interested in Ableton, and today we're actually going to set up an Ableton rig after this, I think. Right?
We're gonna try.
We're gonna try.
I think the right pieces here to do it, but
awesome.
We'll find out.
Well, a few weeks ago on one of the episodes that we did, I can't remember which episode it was, but I used Logic. I basically tricked it into being a looper, and I actually set up an entire MIDI controller for it. And so, like, there's so much like versatility to MIDI. It is limited, as John mentioned, but it's still funny, like how useful it is. I mean, it's in everything, as he also pointed out. So. Yeah. Let's
So yeah, I think today, like I said, if I'm not mistaken, all I'm doing is sending you the speed information, right?
Yeah, wow. You are. I think I may have made it where it won't send that pulse anymore. There might be a C note still being sent to me. If that's the case,
well, I don't have anything triggering anywhere. I cleared it all out before we started.
So if it does send it, it would be because of these two channels here.
That's what I thought.
So if you're hearing something you don't like, I would just say avoid those channels. But I also changed my MIDI input, like basically for like, I changed the MIDI for like receiving notes.
Oh, gotcha.
So maybe it won't work. I don't know. We'll see. Actually, I'm gonna switch it back because I'm not sure if it's still gonna send me MIDI time code.
I'll just keep nothing triggering on those channels.
Yeah, I think for now. And if it really becomes an issue or you need them for whatever reason, I can fix it. It takes like 10 seconds, but I'd have to be over there sitting.
I mean, I can just change what note they send and find one that doesn't trigger anything.
That's true. Well, yeah, exactly. So you can just tell it to not send any note data too. But there's and I know you can figure that out because it's not complicated. It's just synth science.
So let's see. What are we set to right now? 125. So let's just so we get a feel for where this is at before we actually start anything. I want to try something. I'm just gonna put up.
And I'm gonna run to the bathroom real quick actually while you're doing that.
All right. That's not right. That's correct. We need 3 in between. Yep. Okay. So that's what we have for a tempo right now. Let's take a look at what instrument we have for that hat. If I go to edit over here, I can pick a different instrument for that. Probably go with that. All right, so that'll work.
Sorry about that.
We're good.
I'm good too.
Sweet.
I'm all. I don't know how you put that. And I took care of business.
I was gonna say all emptied out.
And getting a refill.
Hey.
All right, what you got? Shouldn't be
So-
anything for me yet. What's up?
I'm feeling something kind of funky today. Maybe
Okay.
a little bit more down tempo, something groovy.
Yeah, we haven't really
You know
done
what I
much
mean?
of that.
So I'm gonna try to make a nice, simple kind of down groove kind
In
of
that
thing.
case, I'm gonna try to mess with some vibrato on like a very, like just something smooth. You know?
Oh, definitely.
You know what I
and
mean?
just something nice and
wash it
washy.
out.
And my plan is to, once I get it something reasonable
Mm-hmm.
with the drum machine, I'm gonna see if I can put a little bass flavor on it.
I like it.
You know. So let's
Sounds
give
good.
that a shot, I guess. I'm gonna just start layering some drums and see where we get.
Wonder if there's any way we can send a little more volume to that from that drum machine.
We can. I have the level very low. I'm just trying to see what sound
okay.
I have. So I should just do this.
There you go. Yeah. That sounds good.
Now it's hitting the limiter.
Cool.
That's not bad. I want something that's like. We're going to go with that.
I like where you're going with that.
Say, give me more. if
Yeah,
you
well, I'm
can.
gonna give you more. vibrato on there. Let's see what we can do about that.
Need a little bass, I think.
So I get a little vibrato on my signal by using something called an LFO. And on here, you can dictate where the LFO goes. And I don't have an overhead camera. That's something I do want to work towards, is getting some kind of overhead shot of this stuff. I think that would look really nice. For the time being, I'll just describe it to you. So you can hear that I'm playing this synth here, and it's making a beautiful triangle sound. It's just based on a triangle wave. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send signal from that triangle wave, this beautiful sound here, and I'm going to send that into an LFO, which stands for low frequency oscillator. It's a frequency that's so large that your ears can't actually pick up the pitch, but it's going to send that signal through this triangle wave, and it's going to affect it over time based on a rate. So I'm going to turn this rate up, and you're going to hear it gets kind of ridiculous. Do you hear that? How it sounds like it's warbled up? So now I'm going to bring that back just a little bit to taste. And it feels like it's just vibrato. It just sounds like someone's taking the instrument and bending the string just a little bit, just like moving their hand across it. Think of like a violin player, like, you know, moving their hand back and forth like this, and it gives you the effect of the pitch going in and out at a rapid pace. Need to be a little more plucky. Keep it pretty diatonic. Okay. Yeah, that was cool. That was cool. I don't know if you noticed what I did. I recorded. So at first I recorded a little sequence in here, and like we mentioned before, the MIDI time code is being sent from that drum machine into this thing. So in effect, there's a sequencer in here. It gives me 16 steps, and there's also a record feature. So as the steps are going through, I can hit record, and I can lay down a little sequence, and it time syncs because it's already synchronized with the drum machine. Then it was up to me, using the echoes, delay, and looper here, the white pedal, to record as close as I could on the beat. But it didn't have to be perfect because I recorded it with the tape moving half speed, and then I set it to normal speed so it felt like what I recorded was double speed. And so what I was doing was...
Well, we had a lot of space being added, too, I feel like, to smear it all up, which is nice, too.
Absolutely. So what I was doing was I was, what would you say, oscillating, or that's a bad word in this context because I don't want to confuse people with oscillators. I was jumping between the parts. So
hey, there's a word that's close to that you could use.
What is it?
Vacillate.
Yeah, I was vacillating. Vacillating. That's an interesting one. Between the normal way it would sound, the way I recorded it, with this higher pitch version in the echoes. So it was able to give this high energy, just double time, duplication of what I recorded out of here. I thought that was really fun, and I thought it kept it moving. And then what you were doing in the drums, just to kind of keep it building like that, it was very synthwave. Was not mall pop though.
Yeah, we usually fall into mall pop.
We usually make mall pop here.
It's just our thing, Yeah, that was a good little jam. I like that.
So, this is the mug I chose today.
Oh, okay.
We should show off our mugs.
Yep, yeah. I went with the tried and true.
Mm-hmm. That one's been featured on this stream, in fact.
Let me get that glare out.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a glare. Ooh.
Hold up. There it is.
It's so simple and beautiful. I love the NASA logo. I think it looks really cool.
Yeah, boy, they did a good job on that for being a
It's very it's very futurist from the time it was made. Like, it was... I think it's ahead of its time.
Yeah, like if we had a starship right now and that was on the side of it, it wouldn't look like some antique thing.
No.
Like if you saw a coat of arms on a T-shirt, you'd be like, all right,
okay, yeah, try.
It's had its time. I see what you're trying to do there, though.
Yeah.
But this,
yeah, it feels...
You could put on a T-shirt and it feels like right now.
Yeah, it does. It really does. Yeah. And then mine is this. I got some bisons on here. I think it says. Oh, I thought it was from Montana. It's actually from South Dakota. This was a gift from my mother-in-law, as it would be. So, wall drug. I'm not sure what that means.
Wall drug is like I don't know if it's a chain or a single store, but it's like it's some kind of destination when you go out west. Like it's a thing people go to. You ever seen people drive around with wall drug, like a sticker on their car?
I haven't. No.
That? Okay, it's I feel like it'd be similar to having what would be an example?
Yeah.
It's like I don't know if it is or not when I say this, but I think it's like one of a kind kind of thing. You know what I mean? You have to go there to get stuff of theirs. They don't sell. You can't get wall drug memorabilia or whatever. I don't think
unless you go to a wall drug store.
Yeah, so you have to actually go on a trip.
It's like Ron John.
Yeah, it's very like that.
Yeah,
that kind of thing. It's it's a destination thing as well as it is just a brand or whatever.
Totally get that.
And it also, if I'm not mistaken, may have some history with it too. It might be one of the oldest stores or something like that.
Yeah.
So I don't know exactly what the details are, but that's what that is. So if that's what you got it, if that's what it says, then someone had to go there probably to get it.
Look at how it fits perfectly when I can keep it.
It's so good that it almost worries me.
It's like...
Mostly because I spilled a half a cup of coffee all over my desk last week, and in the dumbest way possible. So I'm just like super hypersensitive to just drinks being
Yeah.
around my.
I feel you. Well, yeah, that's good. I think we can call it there. I feel pretty good about that. Do you have anything you want to say?
I don't think there's anything really. We kind of talked
We
over
did.
a lot of the
Yeah.
pertinent stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think there's really anything coming up to mention that I know of.
Okay.
Other than, of course, we'll do our usual Sunday next week. I'm
Yep.
sure. So
I'm curious to hear how loud we came in today. I know it's been kind of quiet the last few weeks, but we'll try to figure that out and make adjustments. But it's odd because it seems like I'm not getting enough gain into OBS. It's like negative something, negative 10.
yeah, you'll have to listen and check it out, I guess. See what you think it sounds like.
Yeah, I think so. And then, following week, next Tuesday, we'll obviously be doing something like this at 2. I have a few people in the works in terms of coming through and doing podcasts. So you might see some new faces in here, which is exciting. Let's see, anything else? Other than check out Vibe Unit on Sunday. Other than checking out Vibe Unit on Sunday, I think we're good. We don't have really a plan for Sunday, I'm assuming, unless you've heard from someone. But
I have not heard anything yet. No.
okay, so yeah, to keep tuning in and checking out everything. Send an email, I should say, to the Skylight Huddle Gmail, skylighthuddle@gmail.com. Make a comment. Let us know some things that you liked about today. Maybe some things you'd like to see us work on. If you have any questions in terms of some things we discussed today, feel free to comment or email. Looking for people to actually do that because it makes this thing a little more engaging. I want to be more engaging with anyone interested in this kind of stuff. And if you're a person who likes synthesizers or guitar pedals or even just like discussing this stuff, make sure you contact me or John at our following emails, or say your email again. I'm never going to remember this. I got to write it down.
media@vibeunit.com. It's really like easy and corporate.
media@vibeunit.com. So you check out media@vibeunit.com if you want to come to Vibe Unit. If you have a group of musicians that are interested in performing on a Sunday, that would be fun, And then what else? Yeah, and if you're interested in like synthesizers or this kind of stuff, and you're interested in coming through here, make sure you email me and let me know if you're local or whatever. So, all right. Well, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you guys next time.
Cool. See you next time.